Hey, what's up everybody? We're back for another masterclass. I'm really excited that you tuned in again. And today I thought we would tackle some of your videos again. A lot of exciting stuff, so let's just jump into it. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the opening of the Schumann Concerto played by Carlo. Carlo, thank you so much for sending the Schumann. One thing I wanted to suggest to you, it is really important to have some sort of sense of tempo. Right now there are just too many passages that are completely out of sync, and it will be very difficult for you once you bring this piece to a pianist or maybe even one day to an orchestra. There is a very clear organization going on in the orchestra. There are a lot of ongoing eighth notes. Once you come to the Forte, you have a lot of syncopations in the strings. So what I suggest is that you just go back with a metronome and you just really check how much am I in tempo. Now, when I suggest to practice with metronome, I don't mean that you have to play everything in a very metric way. I personally play the Schumann very free, but I make sure that at the beginning of the bar line or the beginning of every second bar line, depending on the intensity of the material, I am back in tempo. So you can deviate a little bit from the tempo, but you need to come back. The second thing I want to talk about is your pinky of the bow arm. So this would be with pinky, and this is without. It's very hard to control a straight bow when you don't have all the fingers attached to the bow. Which reminds me that we should do a masterclass on basics when it comes to the bow. I think we're going to do that next. Let me know in the comments below if that is something that interests you guys. Carlo, thank you very much for your video, and we're going to continue with Carolina. Carolina, thank you very much for this. As you know, Saint-Saëns is very much a masterclass subject these days. So if you haven't watched any of my Saint-Saëns masterclasses yet, please do. Carolina, I want to talk to you about the first shift. Something that I notice is that you play the first note with a lot of energy, which is great, but I hear the shift too clearly. And I hear it in a way that you shift first to the C, and then you re-articulate with the fourth finger. Now, shifting is unavoidable, but we need to find a way to make the shift as inaudible. In this case, I would suggest that you place the shift right in between that bow change. Now, that is a very, very, very short time. So you need to be very quick. In order to speed up your shift, you need to prepare your shift, which means that your elbow and your arm has to already go in front, and then in the last second the finger follows. And don't slide to the C and then re-articulate the D, but articulate the D as you are moving downwards. Another thing, Carolina, that I hear, there is a little bit of an issue of clarity when you come to this passage. I do suggest that you take a little bit more time on the A and then make the shift with the fourth finger. That way it doesn't get too muddled. You had such energy up until this point, and it's really a pity if that section gets muddled because it is quite the high point. And the third thing would be when you come to this passage, these notes are not all equal. Some of them have more tension, some of them have less tension. So take a friend and have him or her play the E. This is a fantastic way to experience tension rather than just intellectually understanding it. Carolina, thank you very much for your video. Jaden, thank you very much for your video. That was awesome. Really good intonation and really good distribution of bow. Really excellent. I do have two things that I want to talk to you about. First of all, don't forget these movements of the Bach suites, they're dances. In order for the dancers not to get stuck, there needs to be a feeling of flow. That I really have the feeling we are moving through the saraband and we're not getting stuck. The second thing is your use of vibrato. You have a beautiful sound, but we don't need to apply too much vibrato in Baroque music. Instead, try to breathe with your bow. So instead of getting stuck on the string, you see what I mean, Jaden? The difference is that I don't leave the string and it stays flat. And if I apply just a little bit more air to the bow or a little bit more breath, it will sound much more free. And Jaden, the third thing that comes to mind, you have to make a difference between chords that kind of sit down in a stately way and connecting notes that move a little bit more. So definitely the first chords have a certain weight about them. But then I move. We don't want to get stuck on... Think of a zip line. The cable needs to be fixed with huge beams, but in between the beams you swing. And that swing, Jaden, I need to hear a little bit more. Here's another example for you. Here I swing, and here I anchor myself. And now I swing again. And now I anchor myself again. And here I land again with these heavy notes. This was awesome. Thank you very much. Tobias, thank you very much for Debussy. In my opinion, you can take a little bit more time for the opening chorus. You are are really opening the scene of what is to come in this sonata. And so I don't think that you need to hurry too much in this case, but you can really take time to let each note speak. In your comment of the video, you actually had a specific question about the following. I would like more separation between the notes, and I find it much more difficult to do on the downstrokes than the upstroke. Honestly, when I look at the video, it seems to me like you're not really planning the bow distribution very well. Now, under each of the figurations, we have a crescendo. In order to organize the bow, let's just say that for the last note, we want half the bow. For the note prior to that, we want half of what's left. And for the two other notes, we want to share the space that is left. So sorry if this is a bit mathematical, but this is for the first note, for the second note, for the third note, and for the last note. So through this bow distribution, you have an inbuilt crescendo. Same thing goes for up bow. So I would take down the tempo with the metronome and I would go really slow. Because what I see in your video is that for the first note, you're already spending too much space on the bow. So if you plan more carefully, it will go automatically, and I think you will see a huge difference. Tobias, thank you very much for your video. Brian, thank you so much for your video, but I was thinking, do I know that couch? It seemed familiar. Looks to me like a family with great cello talent, and you really play this very well, Brian. You have great virtuosity and you really dive into this courante. I would like to suggest, though, that you take a little bit of time when there are harmonic changes. Let's look at the ending of this movement. When you imagine the bass, we have something that is called a cadenza under there. And whenever you have a moving bass, you should not play too fast because it is very difficult for the listener to understand the harmonic progression if you just race over it. Your virtuosity is astounding, but I shouldn't have the feeling that you are rushing into something, but actually that you are completely in control. Through giving me a little bit of breathing time, I have the feeling you are even more in control than you already are. Shrub, thank you very much for the Schumann. What comes to mind is that I feel your bow is subdividing the lines a little bit too much. I really want to get a feeling that this is one breath. Now, I don't really care how much you divide the bow, but just be careful that when you do a shift or when you play a note, that there is not a tick in the hand. A good way to avoid the subdivision is that you think of a first impulse and then you just let the hand flow. Think of where you want to go with a phrase rather than what you have to overcome. What you have to overcome, you've already worked on. So now you can move on to the next step and just look a little bit into the future of where you want to land and try to lead your phrase with one breath. In a way, we all can learn very much from just breathing a phrase and seeing what that does to our physical outlets, both left and right hand. Also, we should not forget that this piece is originally for the clarinet. So maybe for fun, listen to this piece played by a clarinet player And I think through the way they breathe and the way subsequently they shape their phrases, I think we can learn quite a lot. Shrub, thank you very much for your video, and thank you all for watching. That's it for today. If your video wasn't among the selected, don't worry about it. I'm gonna do more of these masterclasses, and with a little bit of luck, your video is gonna be the next one. If you haven't submitted your video, as you can see, it's a lot of fun. Stay safe, stay healthy. I hope you're doing well, and I hope this tough time is gonna be over very quickly for all of us. See you soon, bye.